Have you ever seen someone so proud that they mistook their own mother for a curse? Well, today's story isn't just about pride, it's about karma, wrapped in love, loss, and one unforgettable twist that'll leave you speechless. Pedro thought money could make him a king. But that crown of pride? It was about to crumble right in front of the whole city. So stay with me till the end, because the ending will shake your soul. Pedro Williams wasn't born rich, but he sure acted like he was. Every morning, he'd step out of his rented apartment in a designer suit, click his car key like a boss, and drive off in a luxury car that wasn't even his, it was rented too. To everyone around, Pedro was living large. But behind that shiny image lived a secret so deep, not even the mirror on his wall could reflect it. You see, Pedro had everything money could buy except peace. And when his father passed away, even that illusion began to fall apart. The laughter in the Williams house faded. His mother, Madame Grace, dressed in black for months. Her eyes, red and swollen, looked like windows to a broken soul. She had lost her best friend, and the only man who ever truly saw her heart. But Pedro? He wanted to move on. Fast. And then there was Lydia. Lydia, beautiful, ambitious, and cold as diamond. She smelled like roses and arrogance mixed together. She wore luxury like it was her birthright, and Pedro was addicted to her like a bad habit. One rainy evening, Lydia crossed her legs on the sofa, looked around Pedro's house with disgust, and said the words that would set off the storm. "Pedro, it's your mother." Pedro frowned. "What about her?" Lydia sighed dramatically. "It's been months since your father's death, and she's still here. Don't you think it's time she went back to the village?" Pedro's eyes darkened. "She's my mother. Where do you want her to go?" Lydia leaned forward, her perfume choking the air. "People are talking. They say your mother is a witch." Pedro's heart dropped. "What nonsense is that?" Lydia's tone sharpened. "Open your eyes, Pedro. Since she came, your business has been falling apart. Even that contract you lost last month, maybe it wasn't bad luck. Maybe it was her." Pedro's jaw tightened. "Stop it, Lydia." But Lydia wasn't done. "My parents said they won't support our marriage if she keeps living here. It's either me or her." The rain outside grew louder, like heaven itself was warning him, but pride made him deaf. And that night, Pedro made the worst decision of his life. He walked into his mother's room, his voice cold and sharp. "Mother, you have to leave." Madame Grace froze, confused. "What? Leave? Why, my son?" He couldn't look at her. "People are talking. They say you caused father's death." The words stabbed through her like knives. "Pedro, how can you say that? I loved your father." Tears filled her eyes, but he didn't soften. "You'll be fine, mother. Go to the village. I'll send you something later." Grace fell to her knees, begging. "Pedro, please don't do this. I carried you for 9 months. I have no one else." But pride had already turned his heart to stone. He walked out, leaving her crying on the floor as thunder rolled outside. That night, in the rain, Madame Grace packed her things into a small nylon bag and whispered, "God, take care of my son. He no longer knows what he's doing." She knocked on her friend Aunt Rose's door, drenched and shivering. "He sent me away," she said softly. Rose hugged her tightly. "Don't cry, Grace. God will fight for you." And he did, just not the way anyone expected. Days turned into weeks. Pedro's career rose, but his heart fell emptier every day. Lydia filled his head with more poison, while his mother built her strength piece by piece. With Aunt Rose's help, Madame Grace started selling vegetables by the roadside. She'd wake up before dawn, whispering prayers over baskets of tomatoes, onions, and peppers. At first, no one noticed her. But her kindness changed that. People started calling her Mama Grace, the woman who smiled even under the hot sun. She didn't have much, but she had peace. One afternoon, a familiar perfume cut through the air. Lydia stood in front of her, laughing cruelly. "Well, look who we have here." Pedro's mother, the famous witch, now selling tomatoes by the roadside. Grace didn't react. She just kept arranging her vegetables. "Good afternoon, Lydia." Lydia scoffed. "Don't good afternoon me. You should be ashamed of yourself." Grace smiled faintly. "Lydia, you are not God." Lydia blinked. "What did you say?" "I said, you are not God. You can't control the future." Lydia frowned. "Keep your poor woman wisdom. I'm marrying your son soon. You'll see what real success looks like." Grace looked up, her eyes calm. "Enjoy your heels, my daughter. But remember, pride can make even a golden shoe break." Lydia rolled her eyes and stormed off, her laughter echoing down the street. But time has a way of proving the quiet ones right. Weeks later, Pedro and Lydia's wedding plans were in full swing. The city buzzed with excitement. It was to be the grandest wedding in town, the kind of event where people came just to gossip about how rich everyone looked. One evening, Lydia flipped through a bridal magazine while Pedro said, "We're inviting my mother." Lydia nearly dropped her glass. "What? Why?" Pedro smirked. "Not to honor her. To humiliate her. I want her to see the difference between her world and ours." Lydia grinned wickedly. "You're terrible." Pedro smiled. Sometimes the wicked must taste their own medicine. And so, a golden invitation landed on Madame Grace's vegetable table days later. When she saw it, her hands trembled. Aunt Rose read it aloud and said, "Grace, he's getting married." Grace sighed. "He didn't invite me out of love. He wants to mock me." But Rose placed her hand over hers. "Then go. Let him see what true grace looks like." The morning of the wedding arrived. Grace dressed in a simple, clean blue gown. Her hair wrapped neatly, her eyes calm. As she stood outside waiting for a taxi, a shiny black Hummer Jeep pulled up. A driver stepped out and said, "Good morning, Madam Grace. Mr. Stephen sent me. He said today is your special day." Grace froze. "Mr. Stephen?" "Yes, ma'am. He bought this car, it's yours now." Her mouth fell open. Tears filled her eyes. "Oh Lord, you remembered me." The car drove her to the wedding hall, turning heads everywhere it went. People whispered, "Who's that woman? She must be a big guest." When she entered the hall, the ushers quickly offered her a seat, near the back. She sat quietly, her presence calm but commanding. Moments later, Pedro and Lydia walked in hand, smiling for the cameras. The crowd cheered, but Pedro's heart stopped when he saw her. There she was. His mother. Sitting like a queen. Their eyes met, and for the first time, Pedro saw her not as a poor widow, but as a woman of strength. His hands began to shake. The pastor spoke. "Pedro Williams, do you take Lydia Rowland to be your lawfully wedded wife?" The room waited. Cameras flashed. Lydia's smile glittered like glass. Pedro said nothing. Then, quietly, he said, "No." The crowd gasped. Lydia's face turned pale. Pedro turned to her. "I can't. I won't marry you." Lydia hissed. "What are you saying?" Pedro's voice trembled. "For years, I believed lies. I let pride destroy me. I threw away the only person who ever loved me and my mother. But today, I see the truth." He faced the crowd. This wedding was never about love. It was about pride. "And I won't live in pride anymore." Then he looked at Lydia. "Goodbye, Lydia." He turned, walked straight down the aisle, past the shocked guests, past the flashing cameras, and stopped right in front of Madame Grace. For a moment, no words came out. Then, he fell to his knees. "Mother," he said, his voice breaking. "Please forgive me." Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "My son. I forgave you the day you threw me out." The crowd watched in silence as he held her hands. And for the first time, Pedro felt peace. Real peace. The same peace his mother had carried through the storm. Lydia's pride shattered that day. The wedding that was meant to show her glory became the stage for her fall. People whispered her name in pity, not envy. But for Pedro, it was a new beginning. He moved back in with his mother, helped her expand her business, and opened a new supermarket in her name, Mama Grace Foods. And the woman the world called poor? She became a symbol of strength, the mother who rose higher than pride itself. Sometimes, life humbles us not to break us, but to rebuild us. Pride made Pedro blind, but grace opened his eyes.